Okay, so now we're in chapter 5 of the book of Judges, and this is going to be a song. Before we read it, we need to emphasize again that songs or song-type literature are very different in nature and form, and in some cases even content, than prose or historical details or things like that. One of the things that we need to keep a mind on as we read through Scripture is what kind of literature each section of Scripture is, and understand kind of what the rules are that apply to those particular kinds of literature. We're going to be looking for a very different message and format in a song than we would be in a census or in a list of technical details or in a historical narrative. Okay? So we don't want to take the words of the song it's the same thing with songs today, you know. You go to a church today, you sing your hymns or your praise and worship songs, whatever you've got, or even any other kind of songs. You know, very rarely are the words of a song meant to be taken literally, even if they are telling a story in the song. You know, a song is meant to communicate a message in a way that is memorable, you know, an earworm type song that sticks in your mind. You know, at the end of Deuteronomy, Moses crafts a song called the Song of Moses, which is meant to be remembered by the Israelites throughout their history. You know, and songs can do that, and they speak to emotions, like they unlock you from an emotional perspective, and you attach to the song. Now, I will admit, I'm not a song guy by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not a music guy. Music does not have this effect on me. Okay? Music and songs and singing just do not have that effect on me. I do not see I just don't. Okay, it's like I'm practically tone deaf, and I'm a writer. I'm a story guy. It's like I understand how to communicate through telling a story, and I get that. I do that myself. I receive that. I perceive that better. I'm not a song. That's why later on when we get to the songs are tough for me. Okay. I don't get that from a song. I knew a guy once who talked over and over and over again about finding meaning in music, and he was a band guy. He had been in a band growing up, and just he saw the world through songs. God spoke to him through songs, whether they were Christian songs or secular songs or however you want to call it. Like he heard messages in the song. I don't get that. That doesn't happen to me at all. Okay, I don't have that connection to me. To me, it's just noise. Okay, to me, music is just noise. And so, glorifying noise. And I don't like noise. If you listen, you don't hear any noise in my apartment right now, except for the hum of my computer, which is right here in the desk. It's only noise. Okay, I don't like noise. I like peace and quiet. I like silence, or close to silence. And so noise to me is just not something to be. I don't like noise. And to me, music is just glorified noise. Like I don't get it at all. I don't hear it. I just don't. It just doesn't. I don't get it. I mean, it's a complete. It's just noise. It might as well just be banging on drums. Like I don't get it at all. And the content of a song, like the words of a song, the lyrics of a song, I don't get. Okay. It's like you're supposed to sing these songs, you're supposed to feel these songs, and it's like I just don't get that at all. Okay, and I want to admit that. Like that's a weakness of mine. That is not an area that I am strong in. That is very much a weakness of mine. So when we get to these songs in Scripture, we saw one way back in Exodus when Miriam sang a song, and the people of Israel sang a song after the Egyptians died in the Red Sea. Like I said, at the end of Deuteronomy, Moses sang a song, and which was meant to be a warning to them and a remembrance to them for throughout their generations. And we've had little glimpses of songs here and there since then. And here's a song. And we're going to have a whole book of them in the Psalms, which are basically just a whole bunch of songs. And I'm going to admit, this is a weak area of mine. This is an area that I am not strong in. Now, we don't have the melodies to these songs anymore, and of course these are English translations of ancient Hebrew words. So we don't know how they would have actually sung this song. All we have are the words themselves recorded for us, which again, we're even reading an English translation 3,300 years later or whatever. And so we don't know what the melody sound like was, or what they even, what they sounded like when they actually sang it. Which is another part of the reason why the songs are difficult for me. Because I'm not hearing it the way it was originally meant to be heard. Like these other sections of scripture, like we just got done reading about the story of the battle, like I can visualize that. I can picture in my head what it would have been like for someone to be reading this account out loud to the people whenever they got together for their feasts or whatever. Okay, like that makes sense to me. I can see myself doing that. I can picture myself being in the crowd hearing that. But because I have no idea how they would have actually sung this song, I don't know how to interpret this song that way. I don't know how they would have sang it. I don't know how it would have sounded. I don't know how it would have fit into their musical culture, because I know what their musical culture was. And that's on top of my personal problems of just not understanding music in general. So not only do I not understand music in general, I talk over and over and over again in these videos about trying to make that leap back and understand these texts, how they would have originally been heard by their hearers, the people to whom they would have originally been spoken aloud. And I can do that, I think, in some areas better than in others. And when it comes to these songs, this is a weakness of mine. It probably always will be. I'm 40 years old. I have no reason to expect that I'm someday suddenly going to get it. It's always going to be a hardship for me. It's always going to be something that is not easy for me to do. So anyway, this is also different from, say, Job. We read through the book of Job, which is a drama, a wisdom literature, a play, almost like a play. But it wasn't a song like that. Like it is a poem, it is poetry, it is Hebrew. I even understand that better, because even with Hebrew poetry, yes, it's figurative, yes, it's hyperbolic, and yet, and I said this during the book of Job, we can't read too much in the literal meaning of the verses per se. It's a message that's being preached to us, and we need to be careful not to take every single verse as being factually, technically accurate. But it's still like spoken words. It's still, like I said when we read Job, it sounds to me like it's a play. Like you would the text itself doesn't tell you to do this, but it sounds to me like you would have like different speakers for each of the parts, and you would almost be like acting this out somewhat in front of a crowd. That's not the case of the songs. Okay, that's not the case of the songs. The songs are a different category, even from the wisdom literature of poetry, or the prophetic poetry. Deborah was a prophetess, so you could look at this as a form of prophetic poetry, but it's also a song, and so that's, like I said, it's tough for me. Anyway, that's enough of an introduction. Let's get to this. On that day, Deborah and, it's been so long now, let's just go ahead and start a new video.